Okay, we are sitting here
Yes.
in San Mateo in California,
Uh-huh.
and this is the home of Fanita English, our colleague, my teacher, one of my teachers, and it's almost 30 years ago we did interviews like this
Yes.
with audio and published them, and I did never expect that almost 30 years later I will have the opportunity again to talk to you. But luckily you grow so old
Yes.
that we have the opportunity. And I was a young man in the 30s when you have been
Well, yes.
my
However,
teacher.
you were an established professional, so you can't say I was your teacher.
Oh, you were.
I am much older than you are. That's true. I'm almost 100 years old by now.
Right.
So that's true. But I can't say. I think.
Maybe I just say some things before we go into that, but
Yeah.
it touches something
Yeah.
in me. We do this interview in English also. Fanita speaks German, but Joachim Karnat has already done with you, Fanita, a lot of interviews, and they are on the internet and they are in English.
Yes.
And I hope that many people will watch that to learn something about life and combination of life and TA. And this is why I do it in English, although I even could do it better in German, certainly.
Yeah.
And you just said you don't think you have been a teacher to me because I have already been an established professional.
Yes.
But let me tell you, besides the concepts I got from you,
Yeah.
how you have been a teacher for me. And this has much more to do with your personality than with your theories. For example, I remember, as you may remember, I was often a bit critical. I never was satisfied, as you were as well,
Yeah.
with the simplistic TA and world use and
Yeah.
all that. And one day I had a lot of doubts whether TA and psychotherapy is doing enough good in the world. There's a book out from James Hillman, 100 Years of Psychotherapy and the World is Still Not Better.
Oh yes, and of course James Hillman emphasizes the soul.
Right.
We have to talk about the soul.
No. I just mentioned him to say that he activated a critical view
Yes,
in my... And then I asked you one day,
Yes.
Fanita, I don't know what I said, but the child question was,
Yeah.
do we do any good? And can we be sure that if we try hard from a psychological viewpoint, that we contribute something essential to the world?
Yeah.
And I remember your face, not what you said, but your face told me, I'm not so sure myself.
That's right, and I would say the same thing now.
Yeah.
And transactional analysis doesn't claim to contribute to the world. It's the only claim is to contribute to the one individual who is sitting in front of me, who is, when he is a client or a trainee. So that I don't. You see, you saw that I smiled, I laughed when you said I'm really your teacher. It's elevating me to the position of a philosopher, of somebody who has to say something to the world, and I don't have anything to say, in my opinion, anything to the world. Maybe my mistakes teach people. But at any rate, whenever I worked,
Yeah.
I was only interested in helping the one person I was working with. Now, I like to work in good groups, so I always believed that the other people in the group are also gaining. But that's as far as my ambitions ever went.
But in representing that attitude, you have been a teacher to me.
By cutting down, by being modest. I still don't believe that I've contributed anything to the world. I do believe, and I know, that I have helped some people with some issues that bothered them, with some problems some of them more or less painful.
Mm-hmm.
That's as far as I
Mm-hmm.
ever wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose everybody has something to teach by virtue of being alive.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that sense, a 5-year-old child or a 3-year-old child has something to teach me.
Yeah.
From the way he'll walk or hold on, or from a question a child will ask. In fact, Bernd emphasized the emperor's new clothes. The child who asks a naive question asks the most important question, really.
Right.
Are we talking the truth, or are we reporting what we see?
Yeah. But I think it's an important model in this time that although we are very professional in one perspective, and you indicated which perspective it was for you, that we do not believe that beyond that we are specialists.
That's right.
And can have a lot of judgments about the world or more. If it goes beyond, we are laymen, and we have to go into dialogue and learn from each other. So you always have been a model for a dialogue attitude, for learning together.
Yeah. Well, in that sense, yes. I mean, because you can also learn from our mistakes.
Right.
There's a lot to be learned from that stupid Trump who is being talked about nowadays in America. He's teaching us a lot of what not to do, but how he gets away with it, for instance. So if that's what you mean by teacher, then I'll accept the definition.
but isn't that somehow also calming, that you know that even your theories and your approaches might be old-fashioned one day, but you placed pictures of attitudes of professional within people that might be more worthful over time than the concept.
Yes, I am invested, or I was invested. I'm not creating any theory now, but I was invested in a few theoretical contributions that I made.
Yes. Everybody can watch them.
In fact, in our previous conversation, you were asking me not to keep being a teacher, not to teach. In that sense, I suppose that in every dialogue, I focus on what I can teach people, also what they can teach me.
Yeah, but I want to put in the foreground your way of teaching by being yourself.
I understand.
Not so much, but by the concepts.
I understand.
And so I have some questions.
All right, because I was just about to say I have no idea what is my way of being.
Oh, yeah. So we find out.
So let's
find out.
Let's get your questions, yes.
Okay. When we talked, before the cameras have been on, we talked a bit about how life changes when you grow at your age. And you told me, see, I always have been a teacher. I make it shorter than you said it, and this is really what one of my most important passions are.
That's right, what turned me on.
And since it's a problem if you grow old and you get out of roles and contexts where you cannot no longer be this classical teacher. And can you tell a bit how life changes then and how you feel about it?
Oh yes. I can tell it to you, but I've got to use my own vocabulary.
Certainly.
And my own vocabulary is that I think in terms of 3 unconscious drives, which I call motivators.
Yeah.
And that, which I now name, they've had many names, and I've described them in various contexts and on TV. And the 3 drives that motivate us. I'm going to teach that if it's the last thing I do right now.
Now we have a small teaching part, then I interrupt you
small
again.
teaching. And then I can use this for my vocabulary.
Okay.
The 3 drives are they've changed names. I called them something else in the past, but they're always the same, but with different names. Servia, the one that serves our growth, well-being, our everyday life.
Yeah. And you told me that nowadays you have so much time to spend
I
on
have to
that.
spend a lot of time in the Servia, under the influence of the drive, which is servia, worrying about the medication I take, about the food I take, about how I sit, how I walk, or how I fail to walk, how somebody has to hold me if I don't walk well, and so on. All these preoccupations which are necessary but do not enrich what Hillman would call my soul, in order to bring in your friend Hillman.
Oh, I love that term.
But I will call my essence or me, the one whom I call me.
Right.
So servia is necessary, otherwise I would die, but I do not enjoy when I am being influenced by servia. Pasha is the one that gives pleasure and excitement. Pasha, short for passion, offers excitement, pleasure, fun, risk-taking, adventure, meaning. And last not least, servia, which at its simplest level offers sleep, relax, but then on a more elevated level offers relaxation, meditation, the ability to look at issues philosophically, if you will.
Right.
But at any rate, to detach from daily life.
Right.
Pasha detaches you automatically because you're jumping into the excitement. Transient, for transcendent, helps you detach.
And do you need to exercise to learn that, or is it a drive?
Well, on its simplest level, it's sleeping, and I guess we don't need to exercise about sleep or practice.
But you told me you love sleeping.
I enjoy sleeping.
I agree, I do as well.
That's right. So sleepy to the extent that it also connects a little bit with servi, isn't being taught. Everybody can sleep. The infant at birth is able to sleep and screams, expresses himself or herself and saying, I'm alive. It's a mix of servia and pasha, and I got to have some excitement in this world. Okay. All right. So you're asking me about my own life, and
right. How does it change, and how can you relate to it, being as old as you are?
That's hard, because there are few subjects that nowadays excite me or give me a sense of getting something for the future. Pasha is involved with going someplace. It can be an explorer, or it can be exploration of ideas, or it includes, of course, sex that Freud emphasized so much. Sex, which, by the way, at its origin is also creative, creating babies, but at any rate, it's a creative drive, it's risk-taking, it's adventure. It's whatever gives particular pleasure that does not have any utilitarian function. It may then turn out to be useful for other people, but that's not the purpose of it. Okay. So nowadays I have few opportunities for doing anything that's very exciting or fun. It can be fun. I mean, I can't go out and run around in the woods. Something as simple as that. So an awful lot of my time is taken up. Time is really all we have in life. So I spend a large proportion of my time in necessary but unpleasurable pursuits, like taking medication, watching what I eat,
and you said
thinking about what I'm eating.
Sometimes life is really boring now. Boring.
Servia is very boring. It's necessary but boring.
And when you usually you say when you get old you live from your memories. Do your memories give you comfort?
Not enough. Not enough. I find them boring also.
Okay.
Unless I start thinking a little bit about, the joke that you said, that I'm teaching something that I've thought out before.
Yeah.
But I no longer feel creative, really.
Yeah, and you do not have the stages for it and because
I don't have the opportunities and whatever.
When I was on a conference, it was maybe in the 70s or 80s, I don't know. You came back from Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. And this just came
that
up.
long
and
ago.
Yeah,
yes.
and you made
you invited the 70s.
Yes, and you invited people into dynamic meditation,
Yeah,
and you did this wild stuff.
Yes, yes.
How do you look at this phase in your life from the perspective of now?
You know, thank you for reminding me about that, and you got me laughing about it, because that was ridiculous, but it was enjoyable, it was very exciting. Rajneesh actually combined Pasha with Transha. He claimed that he taught meditative conditions, walking and dancing, and you could get into a particular way of feeling, which was a wonderful way of feeling, the combination of jumping around and meditating.
Yeah, but you, as far as I know, you only did it for some time and then it faded.
It faded because I got more interested in other things.
So it was enough of it for you.
Yes, but you're right about that. Well, now of course I can only remember it nostalgically. I can't start doing it and really get the kind of pleasure I got out of it at the time.
When I wrote to you and you when we can meet here, the email came back, please respect that I'm doing yoga at some part in the day, and I love, my daughter is doing yoga as well, and said, she found something new. Is this a way you can live up new aspects of life?
Yes. Using Transha. The best way now for me is I do a certain amount of meditation. I don't do the Rajneesh meditation, but I do a certain amount of meditating. So it's not necessarily sleeping, just meditating in various ways. Awareness meditation, various kinds of meditation. A simple form of meditation that I even taught my trainees way back, which I'll be glad to teach you too if you want me to, since you said that I'm always teaching.
We do not teach now, that's not the main focus today.
Anyway, meditation, and so I do go, there is a yoga program here,
in 3 times a week.
Yes, but of course the yoga I do is very elementary. I'm stuck in a wheelchair, so I can only do certain exercises. But I find the yoga very comforting and pleasurable. Yes, it's got some pleasure to it in a very limited way. Mainly it's Transha and a comforting way.
Okay.
May I say one more thing that's didactic about my three motivators?
A short version, please.
The 3 motivators handle time differently. When I'm in Serbia, I'm very conscious of time, the clock, the time, and how many minutes and how long. When I'm in Pasha, I lose a sense of time. I may set an alarm clock, or I may, if I'm doing a class, I assume that somebody will tell me that the class is over. Usually I don't finish on time.
With a touch of eternity.
Yeah. And Transha, of course, you are completely outside time. You can just let go.
Yeah. Let me change focus a bit.
Okay, yes, because that was dangerous. We were in the teaching mode already, yes.
I tell you an anecdote. I don't know whether you want it.
Okay, I'd love to hear a joke, yes.
Whenever I tell somebody about Fanita English, I tell this person the story experience I had with you. I was a young man.
Younger than me, in a way. You were not that young.
Yeah, well, I was maybe 30 or so.
Oh, all right.
And I was always I was not very talented to be a patient and to do transference and see in therapist father and mother. Yeah. And this was a hard thing for me. But when I met you, you have some similarities to my mother. Mm-hmm. And it touched me, and we have been in a group, and a part in myself decided I try it with her.
You what?
I try to do the transference work with her, with Fanita.
Oh, yeah. It was transference.
And
yes.
I said, Fanita, you remember me and my mother.
Yeah.
And I was ready to be emotional, what was not easy for me.
Yeah.
And you said, oh no, I don't want to be a mother. And I was shocked. I said, okay, I tried it, but it doesn't work. And it was a wonderful therapeutic intervention because it is one of the experiences that told me you don't have to adapt to a way you think you should work on yourself. You can find your way in your way.
That's
and
right.
so it was a frustration, but it helped me.
Thank you for telling me that. I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah. Later, and this is a more serious and a more sad part of it, I don't know whether you remember that we lost our son, Peter.
I do remember very much so. And I remember you telling me about it, and you're having him on your lap in particular, and how important that was for you.
So we both had to lose our sons. But what I did not know at that time is that it must not have been a long time past since that Brian died, and so I understood later when I heard that perfectly why you now don't want to work from a mother's position.
Yeah. No, but that had nothing to do with Brian.
No?
I think it really was in terms of our relationship that I did not want to be your mother.
Okay.
I wanted to be useful, and if I had a contract for therapy, then I'd want to be a good therapist, but that doesn't mean being a mother.
Oh, okay. So
I don't believe in the Freudian idea of using the... Well, there is a little bit of transference always, because sometimes consciously, in therapy, I will use the parent ego state and say, you should not do this. And so in a sense, I count on the fact that the client may be seeing me a little magically or whatever as an authority figure. But usually I do not like that.
So, and this is one way you have been a teacher for me, because you did not too much go into psychotherapeutic mythologies.
That's the value of TA. I'm interrupting
tell me more about that.
That's what I want to defend TA, because TA does not claim to be this fantastic mode of therapy that's going to solve everything. Just you make a contract. I'm a big defender of contract in TA. And you aim to be using whatever skills and theoretical knowledge you have to help the person essentially help himself.
Yes, and you react with your normal human reactions, and you confront this person with your way of being, and find out whether this person can deal with that in a useful way or not, but not trying to create an artificial atmosphere.
That's right. And I suppose that's why working as a TA therapist was so satisfactory for me and so exciting, because I did not feel that I had to put on a cloak.
And was this a difference to psychoanalysis?
I was at the end. I started to feel so bored in psychoanalysis, and my present day, from a TA standpoint, analysis is that so many patients were there just to get strokes. And you gave the strokes because so-and-so was your patient, and your patient appreciated and believed that it helped him, but it was phony.
It was past-timing. One would have seen past-timing
or
too?
racketeering.
Paid past-timing.
That's right, racketeering. And there was a certain time when I said, it's like being a prostitute.
Yeah.
I'm giving my time and I'm being paid, and presumably it's helping, just like a prostitute is helping. And what's the difference between the therapist and the prostitute?
Yeah, I totally agree. On the other hand, but it's not opposite to it, it's only on one part of the reality. I really am convinced in between that some patients or some people really need a long-term accompany. Did you ever do this kind of work?
Well, I did that before I got to TA, and that's what I was beginning to feel very bored. And it was going on so long, and I was losing interest in the patient.
If it could have been necessary, this was just not your
not my type,
not your style.
My style.
It
is necessary in the case of people who have very deep-set pathology, but even there, I think that there are faster ways of working than being so biographical, delving so much into the past. You need some information about the past, but you don't have to. Otherwise, if you've got a 30-year-old patient, you've got to work for 30 years.
Yeah, certainly. Some do, yeah. When you, let me use some intuition search and some validating search. When you go back through the many fields of your history, what kind of situations come up to your mind that give you a sense of meaning? Oh, this was an example where I could be myself, where I could contribute what I can contribute to the world.
I did feel that this kind of work gave me meaning, and I enjoyed traveling around and doing a workshop here in one country and a workshop in another country. Can we stop for a moment? Can you turn it off?
Shall I bring you
okay,
some
yes, it's over there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Well, we were interrupted by the telephone.
We have been at the point.
And it illustrates the point I was saying. I live now in a retirement community.
Yeah.
And for a while, when I moved here, I was still traveling to Europe until 2010, and I moved here before that. And so my life was really outside this place. By now, my life is limited to this place, and so people are being very friendly and pleasant with one another, and it's an unspoken contract that we're all very pleasant and fine and polite, and that's all Serbia, and it's all very boring. And this phone call is an example.
Oh yeah. So that's
somebody doing me a favor and bringing me a book, and she wants to bring it now, and I don't want her to do so now, but she will do it. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember that when we talked last time in that way, this is 28 years ago,
wow.
We talked about the cultural style of TA community, and we both have been not so satisfied with that everybody is nice to everybody, but doesn't really discuss the concepts.
Well, however, the tea being nice somehow was okay for me and not okay here. So that's a different topic.
Okay.
We'll get into theory again if you. I won't get into theory on that one.
I would. Do you have still contact with others from the TA scene? With other colleagues, people?
Oh yes, some of them who are friends. Well, for instance, Joachim originally was a TA contact. So some are friends, and I'm unfortunately not in this area here. So I have friends all over. I have friends in France, and some of them, there's some email correspondence, and especially telephone, they call me, and I've offered consultation to some of them, and some of them just offer me consultation.
And you have the feeling, because I have most of my friends
Yes.
I won in the context of profession.
That's right.
And I feel it's right. Some of my friends sometimes say, oh, it's important that you have friends besides that many, and you should not have too much, you should not take too much out of the relationships that have a professional touch. But I say, why should I?
Yeah.
I feel much more.
Well, you see, I agree with you and not with the other argument, and I have to talk about my three goddesses again, because what you're saying, the reason for friendship is common interests. Mm-hmm. So if you have other very big interests, then you would be making other friends also. For instance, I'm reading Nabokov's biography now, Speak Memory, and he was passionate, in addition to writing and his love life with his wife, whom he adored and to whom he wrote a lot, butterflies. So he had a certain number of friends who were fascinated with butterflies.
But you couldn't share that.
Yeah. So the idea is not to find something else. It's if your life is dull and if your work is boring, then you must find friends outside. But if you get excited by your work, then you're going to find
that's
friends.
a good point. That's a really good point.
And you are one of the people who's creative in your job. You're not limited to doing your job as a job. You're interested in more theory, you're interested in checking out, for instance, right now, I am not, strictly speaking, a professional friend. It's somebody from so many years ago. So it's a curiosity that emerged out of your professional contact, but isn't limited to your professional experience. Right. This is not a part of your job. You can't do anything with this tomorrow.
No, yes. I do not separate between my job and my life.
Well,
my life is not limited to my job.
That's right.
But my job is a major way to express myself.
Absolutely. Now, for instance, your son, in order to talk about a painful subject, was a very important part of your life.
Right. Yeah.
And so his loss is and was and continues to be important as something that was meaningful to you.
Yeah.
For other parents, having children is not meaningful to them.
They live in different worlds.
That's right. So.
And if they like me and they are polite, they are willing to listen to some of my stories in this area, but it's limited. And maybe this is also a way of being modest, to say I'm limited in the ability to be interested in others, and I have somehow to manage the resources I have in that.
Well, yes, I agree with you completely. It's a matter of what one does with one's time, essentially. All we own is time. And so if you have enough time spent with passion, you don't feel other needs. You may need to concern yourself with your health and whatever you eat and whatever you do for your health, and you need to sleep or relax.
Now comes to my mind your three-story approach.
All right. What's that?
Yeah, you once.
Oh yeah.
You remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Script stories.
Script stories.
Yes. Yes.
And you may know it that I developed an approach with background images. I in San Francisco or in Montreal, I did a seminar. You have been there.
Your postcards, I remember your beautiful postcards.
Right, I gave you postcards, which I photographed myself.
Well, there is your other interest, you see.
One of them. But I wanted now focus on, I developed an inquiry, what images are in the background of your mind, of your personality, that represent power fields and maybe drives, and one of the sources that I developed that, and how the gallery of inner images that are in the background of my foreground
Memories,
personality, it changed over time. And one of the sources that I developed this approach has to do with your script stories.
Oh, so maybe you changed some of them.
Yeah, I didn't take it one-to-one. I do not put it now into terms of script or so.
No.
I just help people to ask themselves, when I have been young, what images did I have, what I will be when I will be old, and then I have a method. So let's, for example, he said, I'm a train conductor.
Yeah.
5 men say, I thought I will be a train conductor one day. This seems not to be very helpful, but if you ask, what did you imagine, what will the life be when you are a train conductor?
Yeah.
So one says, my engine and me, nobody knows my engine as I do.
Yeah.
The other says, my colleague who is doing the heating, we travel around the world and we have a lot of interesting experiences. And the third one said, I'm a train conductor and everybody will be safe traveling with me. And so you get, if you have these images and these ideas, you get an idea what are pascha essentials.
It's a wonderful, wonderful exercise. Yeah.
And we do that a lot with people, especially with people where we have from who we have the impressions that they lost track because they are not in good touch with their pascha.
That's right. That's right. Now, one of the reasons then my work, when I started traveling and doing workshops, it fulfilled me completely, was because it tied in with my childhood wish to be a gypsy.
Oh, right.
You remember that. And I then, when I was traveling and doing my workshops, I was being a gypsy.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and a gypsy, you cross her palm with silver, and then she tells you something that will help you.
Okay.
And that's what I got to do. So that's why I felt like your train conductor. So maybe the person has to find the one who says, because I save people, then if he becomes a doctor, maybe he fulfills him. The other, I get to travel a lot, he becomes a, I don't know, a steamship captain or something. Or
and you may not have only one track or one picture, you may have a kaleidoscope, and then you have the question, how do I combine which kind of pascha, in which roles, on which stages, in which relationships.
I bet that you do that with your photographs.
This would be an option too. I usually do it in the internal mind photography of people, because, but I know of some people who also work with photographs. Okay.